So first of all, I'd like to address how the market is changing in front of us. So if you were to compare recovery since 2019 level, just before COVID had started, we're about 14%. And that's in line with the historical levels. So the growth is coming along quite fast. And you can see that some of the sub-regions are recovering at a much faster levels than other sub-regions, especially when you were to compare the winter season of 2025 versus 2019, as well as 2024. But the airline industry is experiencing extreme volatility over the last 2 years. So we've reached the peak of the recovery. And then there's other geopolitics factor, supply chain issues that we are entering into, and that could prolong for many years to come. So again, airlines have no long-term plans because they're quite restrictive in terms of how the aircraft orders will come in and fulfilled, and their ability to add capacity in the years to come. But one significant light at the end of the tunnel is that we are growing in line with historical levels. So that's good to see that the industry is quite resilient and that growth has come back into the market. As you can see in the table below, Southeast Asia still lags behind when you compare to 2019. And that's purely because some of the airlines have not come back fully from their recovery pace in certain markets, especially the domestic and international recovery. And so, but overall, quite positive, but there's a bit of headwinds moving forward. Industry forecast highlights Asia Pacific weakness. So if you were to compare the net margin comparison between different regions, Asia Pacific is at $3.20 US per passenger. And when you compare that to other regions such as Middle East, which is at the highest $28.60 per passenger, you can see that there are structural changes in terms of financial results. So again, talking about China's position of influence, it's very important because we've got about 390 million seats in this current winter season. And that compares to about 3 times larger than India, which is second placed. And if you were to compare that to Singapore, which is a small market, but a very important market in terms of air connectivity and its dominance, it's about 21 times larger than Singapore market. Again, few factors there. It's regional dominance. Again, China dominates the PATA region in international capacity. There's optimistic growth. So we'll look at more developments in international capacity in a very optimistic manner. Again, that's purely because there's a lot of regional opportunities out of China into the other parts of Asia Pacific. And then there's the Chinese government control, which dictates how the air services are allocated and where the capacity is grown accordingly. And then you can see the growth levels that we have seen from 2019 versus 2025. Chinese market is growing when you compare that to 2019 at about 33.4%. And if you were to compare it to last year, it's still growing at 4.2%, which is quite a general trend in capacity growth with any market or with airlines adding capacity into their network. So the China-Japan dispute, so we've heard a lot about this in the past few months where there's been political tension between the two countries. So that's resulted in the Chinese authorities telling local airlines to withdraw capacity between the two countries. So the graph on the other side of the slide will show you the decrease in the Chinese carriers' capacity from China to Japan, whereas the Japanese carriers continue to operate their normal capacity levels because it's already at a very low base. So the impact is not that significant. And a lot of that traffic is for international connections from Japan to other parts of the world. So I think the Japanese carriers are quite nimble and agile in terms of how they're managing their capacity in this dispute at this current moment. And in the space of 4 weeks, we have seen airlines reduce their capacity by about nearly 60,000 seats per week. So again, it's stabilized off a little bit from its record highs, but it's still about half of what the planned capacity was at the beginning of December 2025.